I would still be extremely careful though, because you don't want to be out $150 due to someone else's mistake. Today we're looking at a major update to a card, a new intro bonus, some changes to Priority Pass, and also a fun section towards the end. A little bit of speculation, but should be good. Given the upcoming recession, I'm once again asking for your thumbs up to help with the algorithm, and if you are someone new here, consider subscribing. Alright, so the big first story is that American Express is going to be changing up the Bonvoy Brilliant credit from a $300 hotel credit to a $300 dining credit, but this is broken down into $25 per month. All of these changes are going to happen on September 22nd of 2022, so if you have that card or if you're considering applying, just use the credit beforehand. Afterwards, it's going to turn into a dining credit. For me personally, I do think I like the Marriott credit a little bit better because there's already so many other credits to deal with. This one seemed a lot more straightforward and I could section that off in my head. The other part of it, and pretty logical, is that people who have this card probably at least travel a little bit or a decent amount, and they're going to end up using that 300 anyways, so it just made sense. Whether super economy stuff all the way up to the St. Regis's and the Ritz-Carltons of the world, there's a pretty wide range. Alright, but the dining credit isn't that bad. Why are you complaining? I definitely understand this side as well. So for a lot of people, you're probably going to either go out with friends, network, or go on date nights where you are bound to go out to eat. Number two, for the pure points crowd who doesn't want to spend money on a hotel, we're currently using a certificate night. So if you just want to use certificates and points, then the dining credit is a lot easier to use and justify. You're not feeling like you're forced to spend $300. There's definitely a bunch of people who generally prefer Airbnbs, but then have these certificates and points as kind of a backup option. Okay, so why is American Express doing this? Number one, monopolize their wallet. So for a lot of normal people, they don't really like to have multiple cards. They're pretty much one and done setups. And if you have this in the wallet, if they feel like they have a credit to use anyways, then they're more likely to keep it in there and just keep using it. Interchange fees are the bread and butter of American Express, so the more transactions that you have on the card, the better it is for them. Just because we like swapping cards and using the strategic option, if you talk to your relatives or even coworkers or anyone else, they're bound to be more maybe one card or maybe 3 card setups compared to multiple. With the old $300 hotel credit, the rational game theory side of it is that you'd only want to use the card when you're staying in a Marriott, but otherwise it doesn't really have any other utility. For the give or take 11 months of the year, you'd probably use something else instead and sock drawer the Marriott card. Number two, and we'll cover this more towards the end, is the idea that they're going to launch an ultra premium card that is maybe even above the platinum. Alright, so if you have the card, you know what the game plan is, you'd want to use the credit before it expires. I'd argue that for most people, it pretty much makes sense to keep it for this duration given the kind of overlap of all of this, and then afterwards you can decide whether you want to keep, downgrade, or cancel the card. If you don't have the card yet, I would say that there is a play for maybe applying for it now or in a few months. Let's say you apply right now on June 30th of 2022, you're going to have July, August, and September, or some of September to use your credit. So in that first year, you're effectively getting $300 in Marriott Bonvoy hotel stay credits for a short duration that you have to use, but pretty straightforward, and you're getting about $250 in dining. So 300 plus 250 is $550 in value in credits. Discount that if you want for a $450 annual fee, and it's before considering intro bonuses and the other perks you get with the card, like Priority Pass. With all of that said, I think I would hold off on applying right now and see what happens. Rationale is that the current intro bonus is only 70,000 Bonvoy for $3,000 in minimum spend in the first 3 months. That's fine, but we've seen 100,000 or 125,000 points in the past before, and I feel like that's a substantially better offer. Basically right now you're getting the lowest offer possible, plus the credit strategy that we talked about, and potentially you can get a higher offer and still even more credits. I think it is a worthwhile pickup, but maybe in a month or two. As a YouTuber, I realize I'm supposed to be FOMOing you and telling you that you need to apply right now and to use the links down below, but I feel like that's not what I'd recommend to a friend or family member, and that's kind of how I treat this channel. Probably why I make small potatoes compared to some other creators, but it is what it is. That's what I'm comfortable with. On that note, if the Brilliant offer ends up jumping up in a few months or in a week or something, or maybe if you're interested in other cards, then consider learning about them on AskSebby.com or down below in the description box. As always, using the links is one of the best ways to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. It actually really means a ton. Alright, went for a quick walk in case you're wondering about lighting. The American Express no annual fee Hilton has a similar problem where there's an elevated offer in this case, but it still doesn't make sense to me. Right now for that card, it's going to be 100,000 points after $1,000 in minimum spend in the first 3 months, and you also get a $100 credit, but that's only for Hilton stays. In the past, we've seen 130,000 points. I'd personally take 30,000 points over $100, just really depends on you though. And in fact, you're valuing those points at 0.33 cents per point, which is pretty low to me. And I feel like if you're considering a card like this, you probably care about Hilton points, which means that you're probably better off with those points. In my experience, and maybe you have a different one, generally the floor is going to be about 0.5 cents per point, if not substantially higher, closer to 0.8, and even 1 cent per point. Offer ends on July 6th if you're interested, but for me, it's a skip. If you want a dollar cost average into Hilton, Marriott, or maybe American Express because you feel like credit as well as travel is going to be pretty persistent, even if the economy is not going as well, then consider Moomoo. As a filming, they have an offer where you get 10 free stocks, 5 for opening up an account, and 5 for depositing any amount. Despite the name, and I realize how kind of weird it sounds, it is owned by Futu Inc., which is a publicly traded company, and they are a registered broker-dealer. On top of that, they are a member of SIPC, so your assets are insured up to $500,000 and $250K for cash. If you want to test out a new brokerage, or if you want the 10 free stocks, which I feel like never really hurt, then link will be down below. Thank you guys in advance. If you're someone that travels, there's a pretty interesting change of Priority Pass. In the past, the old system is that you needed to bring your Priority Pass card with you generally in order to get into these lounges, otherwise you couldn't. Moving forwards, that's no longer going to be the case as long as you register your card on their platform. There are obviously pros and cons of this depending on how you view things. Number one big benefit I think for most people is that you have less cards. So generally you don't want to carry more, you don't want to double up on that if not needed. Number two, and kind of, or I guess definitely a first world problem, is if you have multiple of these premium cards, keeping track of which one is which. To me, the biggest advantage is the fact that employees aren't going to get yelled at anymore. Oftentimes it's someone with a Chase Sapphire Reserve card, they'll kind of pull up the app saying, hey, look, it comes with Priority Pass, and they have to kind of explain back that, hey, you need to have the card. A bunch of yelling persists, asking for managers and stuff. It's just something that shouldn't really happen. On the employee's end, they're just doing their job. They're not really in charge of this. It's not really up to them. And yes, in the past, you could call Chase and tell them that you forgot your card, swipe it, and they'll reimburse you, but I feel like that shouldn't be part of the process. I'd say that the main disadvantage is that we don't really know how it's processed. So whether it's some weird backend where they kind of look at the card and see that it matches maybe a specific type of card, to me at least, this leads into number two, that the employee might not know exactly what to do, and maybe that leads into issues. Kind of a short-term one, obviously, but I feel like it could compound in the future if you are traveling abroad and maybe there's a language barrier, if they have to like press a specific button in order to maybe scan it or something, and they don't realize that, hey, you have one of these cards that count for that. So for me at least, especially in the short term, I would just be extremely careful because I wouldn't want to get charged an extra $150 just due to an accident, due to someone not understanding the process. Third one, and probably more of a me problem, is the fact that there are some cards that are grandfathered that do come with Priority Pass, and if it's a system that I think it is, then maybe they don't know to check that card. All right, so the last topic is going to be a bit of speculation, looking into a crystal ball to see if American Express is going to launch a new card for Bonvoy. If you look at the landscape, you have these no annual fee cards, you have kind of the beginner travel cards, kind of $50 to $250. You have the premium cards, so about $400 to let's say $695, and now maybe you have ultra premium. My guess of ultra premium, about $700 to $1,500 range. And yes, there are Centurion cards and stuff like that, other like private banking VIP cards, but I feel like that's on another level by itself. Rumors of an ultra premium Bonvoy card have been around since the summer of 2021, so almost a year ago from now. A lot of this has to do with surveys that Bonvoy sent out to their customers, so whether that's the Brilliant being moved up directly or a potentially new card being added by itself. Given the change that we talked about in the first topic, I think the latter is more likely, that they are going to launch a new premium card, or ultra premium card. In the past, the number that we saw thrown out a lot was $650, but with inflation, everything else going on, I feel like they could probably push that up to $750, if not $800, and get away with it. I think a lot of people expected that the $695 price tag for the Platinum card would scare a lot of people away, and it kind of did for some people, but a lot of people just kept the card. American Express is obviously going to charge as much as they think they can. For me at least, I'm generally comfortable paying X if I'm getting X plus Y value, and Y is not immaterial. If Y is reasonably valuable, then that makes sense. Let's take a look at the perks that Marriott has considered. First one is Platinum status, and then you can earn Titanium if you spend $75K probably in a calendar year. Number two is $85K anniversary certificates. Number three, 25 Elite Night credits. Number four, $100 credit for St. Regis and Ritz-Carlton, which technically exists currently, but I'd say it's not really worth it. Choice Awards, $300 dining credit, Priority Pass, and also global entry. The dining credit we already covered. I feel like if they were doing this change from a Brilliant to a Brilliant Plus or something like that, or a Brilliant Extra, then they would have just announced it. I don't think that they would have done a piecemeal process of giving bits and pieces of information, because that doesn't make sense. Crystal ball wise, this is why I think they are going to launch a card in the next 6 to 12 months. Factor in that the reward chart is completely changing, and a lot of the otherwise high value properties are now probably going to be expensive. This makes sense to act as kind of a distraction. Oh my gosh, they did all this bad stuff, but we kind of have a weird solution if you're willing to apply for this new card. I'll probably do a future video structuring the card and maybe doing it for other partners as well, because I think that's an interesting video. But for the purpose of this, I think there's only two main perks that I'm pretty excited about. Number one would be platinum status. Main draw of platinum is that you get free upgrades, a free breakfast, and you can actually get suite upgrades. Not guaranteed, not anything, but it's still something compared to gold status. And you can earn platinum right now by either staying a lot or by spending $75,000 on the card within a calendar year. There are a lot of people out there who have very high disposable income, but they just don't travel enough to justify doing that, doing all the nights there, or putting that much spend on the card. So for example, if you're someone that spends $30,000 a year on travel, but you only travel for 15 or 20 days a year, then it just doesn't make sense. You're kind of in that weird spot where Bonvoy sounds good, you like those properties, but you're not getting treated right. Even if this imaginary card is $1,000 and you're getting $1,500 in value, you probably happily pay that because people doing that type of stuff generally are fine with this. So in effect, they're getting this audience that's relatively profitable for very little cost, pretty much dangling upgrades that are available and also free breakfast. A lot of people argue that if everyone's platinum, then no one's platinum. But the thing is, they can price this in such a way that only certain people are going to go for it and not everyone else. It could still be a win-win-win for everyone involved in that group, but it's not going to be everyone. I think a part of this push too is the fact that the Hilton Aspire card gets you diamond status for very little work, if anything. I can't speak for everyone, but I know a lot of people end up going to Conrads and properties like that a bit more because they have diamond status. Maybe they only travel 10 times a year, but they're comfortable paying $300 to $500 a night. Those are people that wouldn't have stayed there without status. And again, it's free breakfast and upgrades. Without dragging this on too long, I think the other interesting potential theoretical perk would be the 85K certificates, especially once the reward chart changes. That's also why I think this is going to happen, because we are going to see some properties that just cost a crazy amount of money, and you need these certificates to actually work for those as well. It's going to be a lot more expensive, but I think you do still want something. Given everything going on, I think it should make for a pretty good Q4, and the more competition we have, the better. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on AskSebby.com and down below in the description box. If you want to check out Moomoo and get 10 free stocks, link will be down below. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a hotel emoji down below in the comments, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. My question for you is, what do you think about the Bonvoy situation and potentially ultra premium cards coming out? Also, what do you think about the Party Pass thing? Do you think it's a logical thing? Have you seen anyone getting yelled at or yelling at people at the lounge? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. I'm hoping for some good stories. Like, subscribe, turn around to the hokey pokey, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.